If you are one of the tens of millions of parents that are now not only dealing with the COVID-19 quarantine, but also you are dealing with homeschooling your kids, stay tuned because I am going to give you my best tips as a homeschooling mom on how to not only survive this, but thrive together as a family. Coming up. So it's hard enough having to stay home and not being able to do those things that our kids are used to doing. We can't go to the movies, we can't go out to eat, we can't go to playgrounds, we can't have play dates, we can't go to church, we can't go to or participate in sporting events. There are so many things that we suddenly cannot do. And as if to add insult to injury, we are now all of a sudden expected to also school our kids at home. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you my top tips as a homeschooling mom. I was actually planning a much different video for this week, but I kept seeing the frustration from my fellow boss babe friends. I kept seeing this in my social media communities, how difficult this all has been. And you know, my channel is all about business, it's about women empowerment, it's about social media platforms. It's not really about homeschooling. And while I'm very comfortable with the topic of homeschooling and very familiar with it, it's just not what my channel's about. So I never assumed that I would talk much about this, but I kept seeing this theme throughout the week and I realized, you know what, this is what my community is going to need right now. And that is what this is all about, me helping you in any way that I can. And if talking about homeschooling is what's going to be helpful for you, then that's what we're going to talk about. So a little backstory on me. I grew up in a homeschooling community. I was homeschooled, my friends were homeschooled, all the kids at church were homeschooled. I'm also 13 and 15 years older than my youngest sisters, so I had a big part to play in their schooling. Growing up in that kind of community, I was able to see firsthand kind of how to homeschool and how not to homeschool. I was able to see the results of different styles of homeschooling now that we're all adults. My husband also grew up homeschooled and his community was homeschoolers. We homeschool our 4 kids now. Most of our friends here in Ohio are also homeschoolers. So to say that I am very familiar with homeschooling is a huge understatement. So that is just a little bit of my background. Let's get into the tips. So tip number 1, work with your family. Everyone is so different. Every family is so unique. And I see a lot of difficulties come in the homeschooling community when we look at other families and think that we need to be doing things exactly like they're doing them. It's a bad habit that we homeschoolers have. We tend to lift up certain families that seem to have it all together, and we expect that our family should look like that. Our family should be doing all those things, and it's really not realistic. So I just want to warn you of this pitfall that we homeschoolers tend to fall into so you can avoid it. You know, you're going to be seeing a bazillion amazing Pinterest ideas and things on social media that you should be doing with your family. And I want you to just take a deep breath. Your family is perfectly yours, and you will do so much better. Your kids will do so much better if you can embrace who you are and who your family is, instead of worrying about what Sally's doing and stressing about if you should be doing the same thing that she is doing. The more that we can release ourselves from what other people are doing and just really focus on our family and what is best for our family, the better we will be able to serve our family and serve our kids. And as you're working with your family, don't expect to recreate your kids' day at school. You know, you'll probably get up a little bit later than they would have for school, but you'll probably get done sooner with school than they would have had they gone to school, because there's a lot fewer interruptions, there's a lot less transition, you know, between class to class. That's why homeschoolers tend to have a much shorter day than public schoolers. It's not that they're not doing schooling, it's just that there's not nearly as many interruptions, so it's a lot easier to just knock it out. Another thing that will really help in this is to learn and understand your kids' different personalities and their learning differences. We homeschool all 4 boys now. The youngest is now in kindergarten. The oldest ones are in 5th grade, and they all are so different and they all learn so differently. The oldest is very responsible, mature. He's kind of quiet. He likes to knock his projects out. So he tends to be a little more messy. He tends to kind of skip over instructions. He tends to get a little bit more wrong because he's in such a hurry to get his projects done. The next one down is very careful. He reads all the instructions. He might take a little bit longer, but he doesn't get as much wrong. The third one down, he has a genius brain. His brain goes a mile a minute, and he is at least a grade ahead in his math. He will also be the type, though, that because his brain is moving so fast, he will get bored easily. He will get distracted so easily. His mind is just running, and I have to always be bringing him back to his schoolwork. And sometimes I need to just have him go do something physical, like run or something like that, just to get some of that energy out, because his brain is going so fast that it's really hard for him to focus it. If he does focus it, then it's crazy, but it's a challenge for me to get him to focus on what's in front of him and do his work. He also tends to get frustrated very quickly if he isn't getting something, because he wants to, he has all that energy and he wants to do his things and he can't because he doesn't understand it. So he tends to get frustrated very quickly. The little guy is just learning, and he's just having fun right now. So his personality is still developing. I'm not quite sure about his learning, how he's going to be. I think he's a little more careful than the oldest, but maybe not as careful as the next one down. Maybe he's kind of in between there. So as you're just going through schooling and learning how your kids learn, you probably already know their personality, but you haven't really had to experience how they learn bookwork and schoolwork. So don't be surprised if you find that you have more difficulties with one kid than another, or a different kind of difficulty with one kid than you might have with another. Kids are so different, and you kind of have to tailor your approach based on the kid's personality and how they learn. Even though my kids might use the same curriculum across the board, I'm going to be different with the third one than I am going to be with the oldest one. The third one I might send out to go run. The oldest one, I might have him redo some of his work because it's messy, or I might have him read the instructions out loud to me so I know that he is reading the instructions. So your approach is going to vary depending on your kid and depending on their personality. So just be aware of this, and don't be surprised if you have one kid that is very different in the way that they learn and the difficulties that they have in learning than another kid. We kind of just have to be creative and be aware of what's going on and work with our kid. And this is going to vary depending on the grade and the age. The younger grades need a lot more entertainment. They need bright colors and fun ways to learn. Their attention span is so very short. I would keep the time to about 15 to maybe 30 minutes max per subject for the younger grades. And for the very young ones, like kindergarten, preschool, first grade, I would try to keep school time to very short. You might have to take breaks, but try to just keep it very short. There's really not a whole lot in those grades that can't be taught fun ways, with maybe we have like a game that has letters. You can do something with maybe like chocolate chips or raisins for math. There's a lot that you can learn in fun ways at that grade level, and just don't put a lot of pressure on kids that are younger to do a lot of schooling. I saw someone that was asking, how do I keep my 2-year-old doing school? And I'm like, 2 years old, you don't have to worry about that. If you can work on colors for 5 minutes or work on numbers for 5 minutes at 2, I don't even know if they can do that at 2. Like, you're good. Just maybe read some books. Always reading is great because they're listening to words, they're picking up new words, their mind is being engaged, their imagination is being engaged. So don't put a lot of pressure on yourself, especially with the younger grades. The older grades, during a time like this, they're going to need a lot more mental and emotional stability. This is an upheaval for them, especially, if they're very used to being with their friends and doing fun things with their friends and maybe sporting things. So be very aware of that for your kids. You might need to be there for them more in a mental and emotional way than really for school. Like, this is a time when they're going to need you to be their support system and find ways to still work through what they're dealing with and maybe some solutions to help remedy those things that they're missing during this time. So the older grades are going to need more of that. One thing that I really love about homeschooling is how we can cater it around our kids' needs. Not only, in their personality differences or their learning differences, but also in their interests. And now might be a really fun time for you to dive into your kids' interests. I don't care what they are. It could be that the kid loves to paint, It could be that they love to build with Legos. I have one kid that loves to bake. I have another son that loves everything firefighting. I have one son that enjoys Ninja Warrior and physical type things. So whatever it is, now might be a great time to dive into those. There's so many free resources out there. There's, probably unlimited amount of YouTube videos around that topic that they're interested in. So just really dive into that and have some fun with this. Homeschooling is really a lot like parenting. Everyone is different. Every kid is different. We shouldn't parent our kids the way someone else parents theirs. We shouldn't homeschool our kids exactly the way somebody homeschools theirs. We should take the good that we see, but still implement it for our family. Don't try to be someone else. If you do, you're just going to frustrate yourself and frustrate your family. Homeschooling should be flexible. It should be tailored to your family. Tip number 2, give yourself and give your kids a lot of grace. This is something that you have never done before. This is something your kids have never done before. Distance and online learning is hard and very, very different from what you are used to. You all have been thrust into the situation that is so new and so completely unplanned. And it's totally normal for you to feel out of your comfort zone, for you to feel overwhelmed. And I just want you to take a deep breath and to not be hard on yourself. The whole goal is to have safe kids and to have healthy kids. And it's a lot different for us that are homeschoolers. It's a whole other ball game to plan to homeschool. We get our books together, we kind of know what we're doing for the year. You have been put into a much different situation. And as homeschoolers, it's so much easier to teach a kindergarten or preschool level than it is a 5th grade level or a 7th grade level. And we get to start off at those easy levels and kind of ease our way into the harder grades. Our kids are already very used to homeschooling. They kind of know our routine. They know what we do. It's so much easier to start that way than it is to all of a sudden, boom, have to figure out how to work out this homeschooling thing at those older grade levels. So my hat is off to each and every one of you that is figuring this out on the fly. Huge, huge kudos to you. Tip number 3, start your day off right. I have been doing this long enough that I can see patterns and I can see common traits of our bad days. I can just about predict if a day is going to be good or bad, and I have learned the steps that I need to take to ensure that we have more good days. The first step is to start my day off right with myself. I can tell you that if I wake up late and I'm stressing over things and I have high expectations for myself or the kids for the day, it's probably not going to be a very good day. So if I can get up earlier than the kids and have some time to myself, it really makes a huge difference. Just being able to have that quiet time and get myself in the right mental space really affects the rest of my day. Sometimes this means not staying up late and watching a show that I wanted to watch. Sometimes this means making sure that I go to bed at a good time the night before. You know that saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy? Well, that's actually kind of true. If I'm not at peace with myself, if I'm not in a good mental state, it will affect my kids. It will trickle down to the rest of my family. Kids are very, very sensitive to energies and they will feed off of your mental state. Plus, if you are in a good mental state, you will be able to handle those things that are inevitably going to come up in your day. It's going to be a lot easier for you to handle frustrations if you are in a good place to start with. The second step that really helps us to have good days is to have a routine. And I'm not talking about a strict hourly type schedule that will drive you crazy, more of a pattern to your day. So like for us and for our kids' ages right now, they have a certain time in the morning that they get up. Each week I have a different day where I have breakfast with my kids. So one kid, I always have breakfast with him on Monday. Another kid, I always have breakfast with him on Tuesday. It's just a way for me to have a little bit of one-on-one time with my boys. Now after breakfast, we usually do get started on school and on work pretty quickly. We actually have decided as a family that we do our schoolwork and our chores before we get to play, before we get to be on electronics, before we get to do all those other fun things. I know this is a struggle for a lot of families, and this is one thing that we have found that really works well to motivate our kids to get their chores and their schoolwork done, so that they don't get to do the fun stuff until the schoolwork does get done. It's like my dad used to tell me, work before play. So that's just one thing that we do. Obviously, you want to have a lot of balance in something like this. You know, there's going to be days when you don't stick to your routine. There's going to be days when things come up. You know, maybe you get sick, or maybe something happens, or maybe it's just one of those days that you know you guys just all need some downtime. So definitely, like, don't feel like you have to stick to this kind of routine every single day. Just be balanced and, you know, work around what your family needs each day. My fourth and final tip is to enjoy life together. You know, in our whole lifetime, this kind of situation will probably never happen again. This is a very unusual situation where we are forced to be together. We can't go other places. We are forced to be together and spend time together. So see this as an opportunity. See this as an adventure that you're having with your family. Take this time to really have some quality family time, have a lot of fun, and get to know each other better. So take some breaks, have some fun. Maybe you want to do some game days with prizes, or you want to do some binge watching days around your favorite shows, or maybe a Disney binge watching day. Go outside. You can go on a bike ride. You can take a walk. I think most of the national parks are still open. Getting some exercise and just getting that fresh air and that sunshine and helping to release a lot of this pent up energy that we all are feeling after the winter and now being pent up in our houses is going to make everybody feel so much better. So just have some fun with this. Get creative. Have some fun with this. Let go of a lot of the expectations that you have about schooling and about this time. You know, the schools are going to be very, very lenient when you go back into school. They're going to know what the situation is. They're not going to be expecting that your kid, you know, did all the things that they would have done if they had been in school. And also, when a new year starts, when a new school year starts, there is a lot of that first several months that is review. So even if you didn't cover all the things you wanted to cover, you know, your school is going to be able to pick your kid back up where they left off, and they're going to be doing a lot of review anyway, so you're going to be okay. I just want you to let go of a lot of expectations and stress that you might have over this time. Your kid is going to be fine. You cannot mess up your kid's schooling in a couple months. You're going to be okay. Obviously, you know, still do school and finish school, but have a lot of fun with this too. Make this time a very memorable experience and find ways to work around the things that are obstacles. Come together as a family and find some solutions around the difficult things that this situation is causing. You know, our kids are used to seeing their friends, they're used to social events and sporting events. Find some ways that they can kind of still get that in, even though it's not going to be the same as they would have gotten at school. Just find some ways around that. Maybe you can Zoom or Skype or FaceTime with their friends. Maybe you can set up your own sport games. Maybe you can read some books and watch some educational things. You know, maybe you want to just have a day where all you study is weather or gardening or something that your kids find interesting. Maybe it's tigers or, you know, jungle or something interesting to your kids. Watch a bunch of videos on that. And, you know, that even though it's not in their school curriculum, they're still learning. So give yourself a lot of grace. Read a lot. You know, especially the younger grades, they will love to be read to. The older grades, you can find books on Kindles or maybe audiobooks that they would find interesting. Do something for someone else. You know, one great way to lift our spirits is to look outside of ourselves and look at helping somebody else. So think of some ways that you can help somebody else. Maybe it's sending cards to somebody. Maybe it is Skyping with grandma. Maybe it is cleaning somebody's flower bed. You know, just make sure that you don't have contact with people and that you're keeping your distance. But there's still a lot of things that we can do to help people. Maybe you want to volunteer to clean up the side of a highway. There's so many things that we can still do. And if we can look outside of our own circumstances and our problems, it's really going to help your kids to see not only how to deal with difficulties and deal with, you know, when there are things that happen that we don't like, but also to learn how to help others and how to serve other people. I suspect that a lot of kids will really benefit from this situation because homeschooling is a better fit for them. Maybe there was something going on with bullying, maybe there was something else going on at school, maybe there's, unfairness or what have you, and the kid has hated school for a long time. They've been wanting to be home and homeschooled, but parents, it's such a big thing to think about homeschooling your kid. It's very, very intimidating. So maybe this will be a situation that will help parents that would benefit from homeschooling, help those families to see that it is possible to have kind of their eyes open to how it is possible for them. And by no means, I know a lot of homeschoolers that are die-hard homeschoolers and think everybody and anybody needs to homeschool, and I'm not at all saying that. I'm not one of those people. I do not think homeschooling is for everyone. But I do feel like this situation might really benefit those families where homeschooling would be good for them, but it's been so intimidating and such a big thing to even contemplate doing that now that they're forced to do it, they can see how they can actually make it work for their family. So take a deep breath. You've got this. This is not going to last forever. This is something you're going to reminisce about years from now. You're going to tell your grandkids about. So make sure that you are having fun, that you are making memories. You're with the people that you love the most on the entire planet. So make sure that you are spending this time wisely, having an adventure with them, and really enjoying this time that you get to spend with them. And if you work from home or have an online business, you are probably needing to work now more than ever before. And that comes with a whole other set of challenges. How do you homeschool? How do you have kids underfoot and still build a successful business? I'm going to put the link to my video on my tips on how to balance mom life with building a business right up here. If you want to see what else I was doing in my business this week, I will put that video down here. As always, please subscribe and be safe, be healthy, and I will see you all next week.